Hi, welcome to lessonswithtroy.com. I'm Troy Brenningmeyer. Well, this is going to be volume number 2 for my lessons covering the Hudson 6-string pedal steel guitar tuned to E9 tuning. If you're interested in learning more about this guitar, be sure to go over to hudsonsteelguitars.com. And if you contact him, be sure to tell him Troy says hi. In this lesson, we're going to cover lots of basics. We're going to cover right-hand technique, what kind of picks I use, thumb pick, all that. We'll go over left-hand technique and using a standard dobro bar or lap steel bar versus maybe a pedal steel bar. This lesson's also going to be all about major chord grips, right? Your different chord grips that you can grab that give you a major chord, and then as you go up the neck, notice I have the frets up here, the numbered frets, and then down here are the chords that would go with those frets. And I also have a diagram. I suggest to go ahead and print that out now and set it on a stand in front of you, and we'll be going over that later in the lesson. But yeah, a lot of basic stuff, but this is really important into understanding the neck of your instrument and understanding what basic chords you can get, and then pushing down only the pedals in this lesson. We're not going over the levers yet, but just your A and your B pedal, what chords that gives you when you push down on those pedals. So lots to learn in this lesson, lots of basic stuff, but lots of really important stuff. So if you got that diagram printed out, let's jump on into the lesson and we'll get going. Okay, so now that we've got these major chord grips down, and we're just forgetting about this 5th string for right now, playing strings 6, 4, and 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. And then the larger grip, strings 6, 3, and 1. Right, over and over and over again. Now let's talk about what happens when you push down on both your A and your B pedal. What that's going to do is, if this is your E major chord, when you push down on your A and your B pedal, that gives you an A major chord. Well, if you know a little bit of music theory and you know about the key of E, your A major chord is what's called your 4 chord in the key of E, where E would be your 1 chord. It's built off the first note of an E major scale, or your first scale degree they call it. E, G sharp, B. And then when you push down on this pedal, or both pedals, your A and your B pedal together, that gives you an A major chord. Now, the order of the notes is going to be different than what it was as far as the intervals of the chord. So with an E major chord, we've got root, 3rd, and 5th. Root, 3rd, 5th. In our first grip. Well, when we push down on your A and your B pedal, what that's going to do is it doesn't change this E note. That stays the same. But this G sharp note, that's going to go up to A, which is going to be the root of our A major chord. And this B is going to go up to C sharp, which is going to be the major 3rd. So you end up with this organization of notes for an A major chord. Right? E, and then you push down an A in your B pedal, that's an A chord, which is going to be your 5th of your chord, root, 3rd. So whereas this E major chord, the root was on the bottom. Right, just try to train your ear to hear that. And then when you push down on A and B, now that what was the root turns into the 5th of the chord. E, A, C sharp. Now you don't necessarily have to know that, but it is important to know that this is your 1 chord in the key of E, and this is your 4 chord. Now all those grips apply. We move to our second grip, right? And we push down on A and B. Now what we end up getting is that's a root position chord, where we've got, for the A chord, this is now our root of A, because that's A. And then this goes to a C sharp. That's the 3rd, the major 3rd of our A chord. And then this is E, the 5th of our A chord, root, 3rd, 5th. then we go to the third grip, push down on A and B, and that gives third, fifth, root, C sharp, E, A. That's all an A chord. So always keep in mind, open, which means you're not pushing down on any pedals, and that could also mean open strings, like, you know, you're not pushing down with your bar also. But I'm actually doing both when I get this E major chord. I'm not pushing down on the pedals, and I'm not using any bar. E major chord, push down on A and B. We get an A major chord. Now, what a lot of people do is they will not push down on both pedals at the same time sometimes. They'll push down on the B pedal first, and then they'll basically take the side of their foot and roll into the A pedal, and it gives you this kind of sound. Let's grab our third, second, and first string. Gives you that real twangy sound. Basically, remember, keep in mind what the A pedal does. It takes your B string, which is your third string, and it moves it up a whole step to C sharp. Remember, in open position, that gives us the third of our A major chord. And then the B pedal, what it's doing is it's taking your G sharp notes and it's moving them up a half step, which, if we're thinking about how that works with our chord, that's moving into the root of our chord with our A and our B pedal down. So keep in mind, A and your B pedal push down gives you your 4 chord if this is your 1 chord. And then the intervals would be 5th, root, 3rd, and then our root position, which would be root, 3rd, 5th, and then that would be 3rd, 5th, root. So when you push down A and B, your G sharp notes turn into your root of your chord, basically. And then work on doing those different grips and then rolling into the A pedal. Now, another thing you can do, instead of just picking them all together, is you can start off with your, foot down on your B pedal, and then that's a really cool lick. First string, second string, third string, and then you're just rolling into that A pedal. Notice the blocking that I'm doing each time I do a different string grouping. Now, if we want to get into the bar technique, I'll just grab my shear horn bar for now. Now, the first thing that you'll notice is that this is E, right? Those grips, we push down on A and B. This is going to be our 4 chord. Well, all you got to do to get to the 5 chord is move up 2 frets in whatever key you're in. So if we're, using open strings and we move up 2 frets, that gives us a B chord, B majors in boy, on our 2nd fret. So that gives us 1, push down an A and B, that's 4 chord. Put your bar on your 2nd fret, and that's your 5 chord. Okay, and feel free to, if you have a round bar, I'm going to be showing you kind of both bars throughout this lesson, because I still really do like the sound and the feel of just a round bar too. The more I use it, actually. Now, if you're using a bar like this, or if you're new to it, the way that I hold it, keep it straight to the fret, and instead of me putting my index finger right on the top of it, I kind of do a peace sign, a little bit of a peace sign, and kind of squeeze it between my index and middle, keeping my thumb on the side of it. It gives you a little bit more control. Sometimes when my index is right on the top, it feels like the bar kind of wants to slide out from under my finger. So I kind of put it a little bit over to the right side, and it feels a little bit more secure. Now, as far as vibrato goes, this is an important thing. Let's take the round bar here, and I'll show you. But it's kind of the same technique that I do with my dobro bar. I'm going to leave my ring and pinky finger kind of locked in, anchored in, and then I'm just moving my bar back and forth like this. So what you can do, let's just keep on that B chord. What you can do is you want to make sure you get the chord in tune first. I'm just rolling into that A pedal. Strings 1, 2, 3. Now once it's in tune, I'm going to start off slow and then go a little bit faster, a little bit wider. You want it real nice and even, and you don't want to really go past the chord. You want to go below the chord and then up to the chord. Like that. And a nice vibrato. You know, I kind of like the sound of a little bit of wider vibrato. You know, a little bit more dramatic, but not real fast. So start off with a narrow kind of vibrato if you want, and then you can widen it up as the natural kind of resonance or sustain starts going away. Now, notice my right hand. When I pick something like that on my higher strings, my right hand is muting out these lower strings, so those aren't really ringing out. So I'm always keeping my right hand on these strings, ready to mute out or muting out strings that I may not want ringing out at that time. So whatever bar you're using, whether it's the standard pedal steel bar or a dobro bar, lap steel bar, same thing, that would be with a dobro bar. Notice how I lock those fingers in and I move back and then forward. Start off slow and in tune, and then make it wider. Okay, let's go ahead and move on.